I'm back. Apparently I accidentally set the stream to I almost accidentally set the stream to private, but oh well, it's an error. Welcome back. Anyways, I'm gonna be doing another read of Bluestar's Prophecy by Aaron Her. And recap before I start. Apparently we got in the prologue. It was talking about what happened when So apparently, the prologue, it took place in book 5 of the first series, and it basically was recapping of Bluestar's death, and then in chapter 1, apparently Bluestar or Blue Kit and her sister Snowfur, who was at the time Blue Kit, apparently exploring the camp for the first time, and apparently they meet this one cat. They meet one of the medicine cats, I think, or maybe it was a warrior. I'm not sure. I think it's a medicine cat, and then they meet the elders, and then they get tired and just go back to the nursery. So I'm on chapter 2 now. Where is chapter 2? I didn't even put a bookmark, but whatever, it's fine. There we go. There's chapter 2. Okay, chapter 2. Blue Kid watched Snow Kid's tail flick intensely, and pushed away the urge to leap on it and pin it to the ground. She didn't dare risk getting her pelt dusty. And remember, Moonflower said, giving Blue Kit's ears another wash. Sit up straight and be polite. Blue Kit rolled her eyes. The three of them were sitting at the edge of the clearing. Oh no, not the Discord notification. Should I mute it? Should I mute? I'm gonna mute real quick. I hope that helps. It'll be the first time Stormtail's seen you since you opened your eyes. Moonflower reminded them unnecessarily. Blue Kit's belly had been knotted with excitement all morning. She wanted her father to see that she wasn't a tiny mewling kit anymore. Moonflower glanced at the gorge barrier. He promised he'd be back from hunting by sun-high. Blue Kit kept her paws rooted to the ground. It was hard sitting still when the camp was so busy with new smells and sights. Mumblefoot and Lark Song had come out of the Elder's den. Feather Whiskered was patting toward them with a ball of moss dangled from his jaws. Blue Kit guessed there was something stinky in it, because he was wrinkling at his nose as though he were carrying foxdog. Oh wait, okay, hold up. Beside the nettle patch, a large tom with a pelt as fiery as the sun was sharing prey with 3 warriors. Is that Sunfall? Blue Kit asked. Yes. Moonflower had begun grooming Snow Kit. And that's Robin Kit, Tawny Spots and Fuzzy Pelt with him. She meowed between licks. Oh, and Thrush Pelt had just come out of the warrior's den. Snow Kit fidgeted between her mother's tongue, complaining to Blue Kit. Did she watch you this hard? But Blue Kit hardly heard. She was too busy gazing at the warriors. She wanted to memorize Robin Wing's brown pelt, so she could always pick her out from the others in a battle. Tawny Spots would be harder to make out, she decided, because of the pale gray tabby fur. But his eyes had tufts on the tips. She'd remembered that. Fuzzy Pelt would be easy to recognize anywhere. His black fur stuck out like a hedgehog's bristles. Thrust's pelt was sandy gray, like the pebbles she and Snow Kit played with in the nursery. He had bright green eyes and a splash of white on his chest that looked like a fluffy cloud. He was much smaller than the others. Did the flesh pelt grow properly? Blue Kit meowed to her mother. Oh, it's mute. Never mind. Okay. Moonflower purred. No, little one. He's just the youngest warrior. He'd received his name only a quarter moon ago. He'll grow, you'll see. The gorse barrier swished and Blue Kid glanced around. Was it Stormtail? Disappointment hit her when Stonepelt padded into the camp with a bird in his jaws. She shuffled her paws, hoping he wouldn't notice. She wasn't sure if he'd recognize her for crashing into the warrior's den. That was a sneaky move, Dappletail yelled on the other side of the clearing. She'd rolled away from White Paw and leaped to her paws. The two she-cats were practicing battle moves beside the tree stump. White Paw shook her fur. Not sneaky, pure skill. She stared at her den maid crossly. Her cloudy eye glinted in the sunshine. Blue Kid knew she couldn't see out of that eye, but she could hear so well that it was impossible to creep up on her. Blue Kid and Snow Kid had tried several times. Lucky hit, Dapplepaw retorted. Patch Kid could do better. Where was Patch Kid? Blue Kid scanned the clearing. There. Leopard Kid and Patch Kid were crouching outside the warrior's den, glancing at each other as if they were planning something. What were they up to? I'm clean enough. Blue Kid's attention snapped back to her sister as Snow Kid ducked away from her mother's tongue. Moonflower sat back. You look lovely. Snow Kid snorted and ruffled the wet fur around her ears with her paw. Blue Kid puffed out her chest and lined her paws smartly in front of her. Please let Stormfur be proud of me. Moonflower had told them over and over what a great warrior their father was, how he was proud and good at fighting, and one of the best hunters in ThunderClan. I hope I grow up to be like him. Why wouldn't Stormtail come to the nursery to see us? Snowkit whined. Adderfangs always come. Oh, wait. Okay. Adderfangs always coming to the nursery to see Patchkit and Leopardkit. He brought them a mouse last time. Your father came to see you as soon as you were born. Moonflower hooked her paw around Snowkit's waving tail and wrapped it neatly over her paws. He's a very important warrior. He doesn't have time to bring you treats. She stepped back and looked at her kids over once more. Besides, you're not big enough to eat a mouse yet. You're not big enough to eat mice yet. Blue Kit scrunched up her ears as she glanced at the sun. It was almost directly overhead. Stormtail would be there soon. She twisted to see the gorse barrier. She knew the warrior patrol would come through the gap in the middle. Patchkit had been telling her about clan life, about hunting patrols and border patrols. He had explained how a warrior hunts first for the clan and only then for himself. Blue Kit was determined that she would always make sure her clan was well fed, even if she had to starve to do it. Moonflower stiffened, her nose twitching. He's here. Where? Snowkit leaped up and spun around, spraying dust over Blue Kit's pelt. Sit down, Moonflower ordered. As Snowkit quickly sat down and wrapped her tail back over her paws, Blue Kit saw the gorse barrier tremble. A dark brown tabby padded through the entrance with a thrust in his jaws, followed by a pale tabby she-cat. Who's that? Blue Kit was impressed by the two voles swinging from the tabby's jaws. The tom is Sparrow Pelt, and the she-cat is Speckletail. Moonflower pricked her ears. There he is! A large gray tom followed Speckletail into camp. His shoulders brushed the gorse, making the spikes quiver. He held his broad head high and his chin up, and his blue eyes shone like stars. In his jaw was the largest squirrel Blue Kid had seen yet. Look what he's brought us to play with! Snowkit gasped. That's not for us. That's not for us, silly, Blue Kid whispered, remembering that what Patch Kid had told her. It's for the whole clan. And we'll be eating it, not playing with it, Moonflower put in sternly. Snowkid's shoulders slumped as she watched her father follow his patrol to the fresh kill pile and lay the squirrel alongside the other prey. Then he turned and looked around the camp. Sit up straight, Moonflower hissed. Blue Kid thought if she sat up any straighter she'd topple over backward. But she held herself as stiffly as she could until Stormtail's gaze finally reached them. A purr rumbled in her mother's throat. Stormtail! Moonflower beckoned him towards Snowkit and Bluekit with her tail. Come and meet your kits. Stormtail padded toward them and halted. They look better with their eyes open, he commended. His mew rumbled so deep it sounded like a growl. Do you see? Moonflower prompted. They both have blue eyes like you. Yes, Blue Kid stretched her eyes wider so her father could admire them, but he hardly seemed to glance at her before he turned back to Moonflower. They look like they'll make good warriors. Of course they will, Moonflower purred. They're your kids. Blue Kid stepped forward. Was it hard to catch that squirrel? She wanted Stormfur to look at her. He might notice how much her pelt was like his. He looked down at her and blinked. Fat squirrels are easy to catch. Will you teach us how to catch squirrels? Snowkid asked. Her tail stirred up the dust behind her. Your mentors will teach you, Stormtail replied. I hope Pinestar chooses well for you. Who would he choose? As Blue Kit's gaze wandered to the warrior's den, the branches quivered and Adderfane headed out. With mews of delight, Leopard Kit and Patch Kit pounced on him. Leaf Kid clung to her father's tail while Patch Kid landed squarely on his shoulders. Adderfang staggered and with an excruciating grunt of surprise collapsed dramatically to the ground. Leopard Kid and Patch Kid leaped onto his belly, squeaking, but Adderfang tumbled them off with a purr and chased them away behind the den. Stormtail glanced toward the commotion, his ears twitching. Blue Kid thought perhaps he was imagining playing with his own kids like that once he got to know them better. Pinestar has asked me to share prey with him, Stormtail told Moonflower. Blue Kid blinked. Now? Is he leaving already? Can we come with you? Stormtail's gaze flashed toward her, and she flinched when she saw the mixture of alarm and discomfort in his eyes. Doesn't he like us? Kids should stay near the nursery, he muttered. Blue Kid's heart sank as he turned to pad away, then swelled with hope when he paused and looked back over his shoulder. Has he changed his mind? Stonepelt told me to wake him up yesterday, he growled. Stay out of the warrior's den. He swung his head around and walked off. Blue Kid stared after him, hollowing with disappointment. Moonflower smoothed her tail along Blue Kid's ruffled flank. Stormtail was only giving you advice, she meowed. So you'll know better next time. Blue Kid stared at her paws, wishing she'd never made such a stupid mistake. Snowkid was skipping around her mother. Okay. Of course we'll know better next time. Does he think we're mouse brained? She stopped and blinked. He must be a really, really important warrior if Pinestar wants to share prey with him. He is. Moonflower watched as Stormtail picked up the squirrel he'd caught and carried it to the ThunderClan leader. Then she looked at Blue Kid, her eyes warm. He'll probably have more time later. Blue Kid lifted her chin. He said we'd make good warriors, secretly vowing to prove him right. She pushed away the empty feeling in the pit of her stomach. Moonflower, a mew of greeting, startled Blue Kid. She turned to see a speckled gray Tom with pale blue eyes ampling out from a tunnel of ferns. Did the great warrior meet his kits? Moonflower narrowed her eyes. Of course. Stone Kit's eyes lit up. Are you Goose Feather? How did you guess? That's the medicine cat's den, isn't it? Snow Kid pointed her nose toward the fern tunnel. So you must be. The Tom sat down. How do you know I wasn't just visiting Goosefeather? He sniffed. Then we'd have seen you go in, Snow Kid answered. We've been sitting here for ages. Really? Goosefeather looked at Moonflower. Moonflower's tail flicked. Blue Kid stiffened the medicine cat. You smell like feather whisker. The tang of strange plants clung to his pelt along with the scent of musty bedding. He says you know the name of every herb in the forest. I do. Goosefeather began washing his face. Snow Kid pushed past her. Mumblefoot says you. Let's not worry about what Mumblefoot says. Moonflower silenced her daughter. Goosefeather stopped washing, his eyes twinkling. I'm always curious about anything Mumblefoot has to say. Blue Kit wove around her sister, drawing her tail across Snow Kid's mouth. He says you go out picking herbs nearly every day, she mewed. A purr rumbled in Goosefeather's throat. This one's smart. I am too, Snow Kid insisted. Of course, Goosefeather's whiskers twitched. You're Moonflower's kid, and she's the smartest cat I know. His gaze flicked briefly to Stormtail. About most things, anyway. He rolled onto his back and began rubbing his shoulders against the warm, rough earth. It's good to see New Leaf again. Blue Kid liked this Tom. He was funny and friendly. She was glad they were kin. What else do you do? Snow Kid asked eagerly. Goosefeather sat up and smoothed his whiskers with a paw. Apart from keeping the whole clan healthy, Blue Kid heard her mother sigh. Wasn't she proud of her litter mate? I interpret signs from StarClan, Goosefeather went on. Blue Kid pricked her ears. What sort of signs? Goosefeather shrugged. Clouds, for example. Blue Kid scrunched her eyes and looked up. The bright blue sky was encircled by trees and flecked with soft white clouds scudding fast overhead. Oh wait, I think I skipped a page. Goosefeather cleared his throat. I can tell just by looking that StarClan sees kits hurrying toward becoming paws. A mutilated tabby Tom padding by glanced sideways at the medicine cat. Goosefeather nodded at the Tom. Hello, Outerfang. Another prophecy? Outerfang mewed archly. Blue Kid glanced at the warrior. Didn't he believe in prophecies? Snow Kid could hardly keep her paws still. It's kids becoming paws. Does that mean us? It might. Goosefeather meowed. Outerfang snorted as he padded away. Blue Kid tilted her head. How do you know Sun Clan means the message for you and not some other clan? It comes with experience. Goosefeather turned his muzzle toward the front tunnel. Do you want to see the medicine den? Blue Kid plucked at the ground. Oh yes, please. It was the one part of the camp she hadn't seen yet. Moonflower, Pine Star called to the queen. Coming! Moonflower glanced around uncertainly at Goosefeather. Can you manage these two by yourself for a moment? We don't need managing, Blue Kid thought indulgently. Of course, Goosefeather meowed. As Moonflower headed away to join Stormtail and Pine Star, Goosefeather led Blue Kid and Snow Kid through the cool green tunnel of ferns and into a grassy clearing with a small pool at one edge. The tang of herbs filled the air, and the grass was speckled with stray bits of leaves that Blue Kid didn't recognize. Ferns closed in on either side, except for one where a tall rock stood, split down the middle by a crack wide enough for a cat to make its den inside. A cracking mew called from an opening in the ferns. Small ears recovering from an adder bite. Goosefeather explained as he padded toward the patient hidden inside the soft green walls. Luckily, it was a small adder, but it'll be another day or two before the poison's out of his system. He disappeared through the ferns. I won't be long. Come on, Snowkit whispered, shaking a loose piece of leaf from her ear. Let's look inside the walk. Bluekit hesitated. Stormtail had just told her not to explore places she didn't belong. It's okay, Snowkit encouraged. Goosefeather asked us to come and see his den. Bluekit glanced at the quivering stalks where the medicine cat had disappeared. I guess. She trotted after Snowkit to the dark opening in the rock. I'll go first. Snowkit's white pelt was swallowed by shadow as she disappeared into the den. Bluekit followed, blinking against the sudden darkness. Pungent odors instantly filled her nose and mouth. Look at all these herbs! Snowkit squeaked. Bluekit stretched her eyes wide, adjusting to the dim light filtered from the entrance, until she saw Snowkit sniffing among the pile of leaves and seed along the wall of the den. Snowkit pawed out a dark green leaf. I wonder what this is for. Bluekit sniffed at it gingerly, wrinkling her nose at the sour smell. You wouldn't eat it, Bluekit growled. Bluekit stepped back, blinking. Scaredy mouse. I'm not a scaredy mouse. Anything but that. Okay, I'll eat it. Leaning down, she bit into the leaf. It felt furry and on her tongue and tasted so bitter it made her gag. Spitting out, she licked her paw, trying to rub off the taste. That's disgusting! Bluekit snorted with laughter. Okay, Smarty Pie, it's your turn. Crossly, Bluekit brushed a paw across a pile of tiny black seeds, sending them spilling across the den floor. Treat one of those. Okay. Snowkit ducked her head and lapped up two of the seeds, swallowing them, then licked her paws. Delicious, she announced, her paws shining. What are you two doing? Moonflower's screech made both kits jump. The queen dragged Bluekit by the scruff and tossed her onto the grassy clearing. She dragged Snowkit out after her. Did you eat anything in there? Moonflower demanded, her eyes wild in panic. Bluekit stared back at her, words sticking in her throat. Did you? Moonflower growled. I spat mine out. Bluekit stammered. She glanced nervously at Snowkit as Moonflower's gaze swung toward her sister. What about you? Snowkit stared at her paws. I swallowed something, she mumbled. Goose spreader. The medicine cat poked her head out of Snow-Ear's nest. What? The kids were in your den, and Snowkit had swallowed something. The goose spreader blinked. He hopped out from the fern nest and hurried across the grass. Find out what it is! Moonflower spat, but Goose Feather was already in his den. He rushed out at a moment later. It looks like they've been at poppy seeds, he meowed. Blue Kid hung her head. She should have dared Snowkit. How many did you swallow? How many did you swallow? Goose Feather urged, his eyes round and dark. Two, Snowkit mewed in a very small voice. Goose Feather sat down with a sigh. She'll be fine, he breathed. It'll just make her sleep. Just make her sleep? Moonflower's pelt with bristled. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure, Goosefeather snapped. Take her back to the nursery and let her sleep it off. You don't want to keep her here so you can watch her, Moonflower prompted, flicking her tail. You'll probably do a better job watching her than me. Goosefeather mewed. I've got Small-Ear to keep an eye on. Moonflower sorted. Come on, she nudged Snow Kid toward the front tunnel. Blue Kid hurried after her. She'll be fine, Goosefeather called after her. She'd better be, Moonflower muttered darkly. As Moonflower marched them across the clearing, Blue Kid was horribly aware of the fear and anger crackling in her mother's pelt. Stupid Tom, muttered the queen. How in StarClan did he become a medicine cat in the first place? Gale twisted in Blue Kit's belly. She had dared Snow Kid to eat the poppy seeds. Don't ever go into the medicine cat's den again, Moonflower scolded. In fact, stay away from the medicine clearing altogether. But what if? Blue Kid began. Don't argue! As he reached the nursery, Moonflower picked Snow Kid up by the scruff and bundled her through the entrance. Blue Kid scrambled after her sister before Moonflower could do the same to her. Why was her mother so angry at Goosefeather? It was Snow Kid who ate the poppy seeds. I dared her. Blue Kit sat at the edge of her, out of, at her, of their nest. Her pelt prickled with alarm as Snow Kit curled into the moss. Her little mate's eyes already had a gay, sleepy look. Moonflower lay by and began to lap briskly at Snow Kit's fur. Swift Breeze stirred in her nest. What's wrong? Goosefeather let Snow Kit eat poppy seeds. Moonflower's eyes were dark with worry. Poppy Dawn sat up. He did what? Blue Kit felt hot with shame. It wasn't Goosefeather's fault. If anyone was to blame, it was her. Goosefeather didn't even know we were in the den, she pointed out. He should have known. He should have warned you. Moonflower sniffed at Snow Kit, who was already fast asleep. Imagine turning your tail on two young kits with all those herbs about. It's a shame Feather Whisker wasn't there, Swift Breeze put in. He'd had kept an eye on them. Moonflower began washing Snow Kit again, this time more gently. Blue Kit could smell the fear on her mother's pelt. Her own fur prickled. She won't die, will she? Poppy Dawn patted from her nest and pressed her muzzle against Blue Kit's cheek. Don't worry, little one. The queen glanced at Moonflower. How many did she eat? She whispered. 2. Poppy Dawn sighed. She'll be fine after a good sleep, she promised. Please, Darkon, let her be okay. Blue Kit's tail quivered, guilt pulsed through her as she crouched stiffly at the edge of the nest. Don't worry, Blue Kit. Moonflower drew into the moss with her tail. I'll watch over her. You go to sleep. Blue Kit closed her eyes, but she couldn't imagine sleeping. Until she knew Snow Kit was okay, I'll never let her go into Goosefeather's den again. Little cats old enough to fetch their own prey gather beneath the high rock. Pine Star's call woke Blue Kit. She scrambled to her paws, excited. A clan meeting. Then she remembered Snow Kit and stiffened. Hardly daring to breathe, she sniffed her sister. She smelled okay. And she was snoring softly. Moonflower's tongue rasped Blue Kit's ear. Don't worry, she whispered. She's fine. Moonflower's eyes were gazed, as though she hadn't slept at all. I've been checking on her. The queen gently nudged a little white bundle. Snow Kit growled and wrapped her paws tightly over her muzzle. Don't wake me again! You've been poking me all night! Blue Kit felt a rush of relief. Snow Kit was fine. She nuzzled against Moonflower's cheek and purred. Poppy Dawn was stretching her forepaws and yawning. How's Snow Kit? She's fine, Moonflower mewed. She won't do that again. Poppy Dawn climbed from her nest. Are you coming to the meeting? Snow Kit's eyes shot up and she dumped her paws. There's a meeting! Blue Kit heaved a sigh of relief. Her sister looked so wrinkly that the poppy seeds must have worn off. Oh wait, wriggly. Okay. Her sister looked so wriggly that the poppy seeds must have worn off, like Goosefeather had said. Can we go? She mewed. Moonflower nodded warily. If you behave yourselves. We will, Blue Kit promised. Moonflower got slowly to her paws and headed to the den entrance. Where's Swift Breeze? Snow Kit wondered. Blue Kit saw that Swift Breeze's nest was empty. Leopard Kit and Patch Kit have gone too. I expect they're already in the clearing. Moonflower called over her shoulder as she squeezed through the gap in the brambles. Blue Kit scrambled out after her mother, the early morning sun filtering softly through the trees and circling the camp. The clan cats were filling the clearing, murmuring excitedly while Pine Star gazed down at them from high rock. Goosefeather sat at the entrance to the front tunnel while Feather Whisker wove between tawny spots and Sparrow Pelt. Fuzzy Pelt and Robin Wing sat in the shadow of High Rock. Blue Kit spotted Stormtail chatting with Winklight. She tried to catch her father's eye, but he was deep in a conversation with the gray tabby warrior. A tangle of branches around the fallen tree quivered as Mumblefoot, Weed Whisker, and Lark's song filled out. Hurry, Moonflower whispered. She nudged Blue Kid and Snow Kid past Applepaw and White Paw. She was jostling for the best position on the tree stump. Here, Moonflower sat down behind Speckletail and Stonepelt. Now sit still and hold your tongues. Stonepelt looked over his shoulder at them. Come to see your first clan meeting, eh? Blue Kid nodded, relieved to see warmth in the warrior's gaze, then glanced at her mother. Are you sure it's okay for us to be here? She whispered. We're not old enough to catch our own prey. Moonflower nodded. As long as you're quiet, she turned to Stonepelt. Do you know what the meeting's about? Speckletail turned around, answering before Stonepelt could speak. I think Pine Star has something planned for two of our kids. Cold dread suddenly within the pit of Blue Kit's stomach. Perhaps Pine Star was going to scold her and Snow Kit for sticking their noses where they didn't belong. She glanced at her sister, few bristling her pelt, then looked up at Pine Star. But the ThunderClan leader's gaze was fixed on two other kids. Leopard Kid and Patch Kit were sitting beneath High Rock. The clan had drawn back, leaving an empty space around them. Were they in trouble? Swift Breeze sat beside Adderfang at the edge of the clearing. They couldn't be in trouble. Swift Breeze's eyes glowed with pride, and Adderfang's chest was thrust forward. His chin high as Pine Star addressed the clan. New Leaf brings with it new hope and warmth. More important, it brings new kits. The red-brown Tom stretched slightly, peering over the clan towards Snow Kit and Blue Kit. I would like to welcome Moonflower and Stormtail's kits to ThunderClan. They are a little too young for a clan meeting, Blue Kit tensed. But I'm glad they're here to see a ceremony that they will one day experience. Blue Kit's heart quickened with excitement as the clan glanced back toward her and Snow Kit. Leopard Kid and Patch Kit, Pine Star drew their attention once more, and all eyes fixed on the two young kits beneath High Rock. You have been with us for 6 moons, and I've learned what it is to be a ThunderClan cat. Today is the day you'll you will begin to learn what it is to be a ThunderClan warrior. Mews of approval rippled through the crowd as Pine Star went on. Leopard Kit. When her name was called, Leopard Kit stepped forward, her eyes raised to where Pine Star stood in the edge of High Rock. From this day forward, you shall be known as Leopard Paw. Pine Star tuned his gaze to Robin Wing. You will train her, Robin Ring. Mumblefoot was your mentor, and I hope that you will pass on the fine hunting skills he taught you. Robin Ring dipped his head and stepped forward to stand beside her new apprentice. Patch Kit, Pine Star went on. I already see your father's courage shining in your eyes. From now on, you'll be called from Pat. Oh wait. From now on, you'll be called Patch Kit, and I gave you Fuzzy Pelt as your mentor. Listen to him carefully because though he is young, he is clever enough to teach you how to use your courage wisely. Please murmurs spread through the clan. Patchpaw, Swift Breeze's proud mew echoed. Oh wait, okay. Please murmurs spread through the clan. Patch Kit, Swift Breeze's proud mew echoed off High Rock. Leopard Paw, Double Paw, jumped off the tree stump and wove her way through the crowd. White Paw followed. We've already made your nest for you, Double Paw mewed to the new apprentices. Using some of my moss, White Paw pointed out. Blue Kit felt a pang. She was losing her dead mates. Once Swift Breeze missed them? She asked Moonflower. Yes. Her mother's eyes were glazed, but not with tiredness this time. Come on, she mewed huskily. She swept her tail around her two kits and began to usher them back toward the nursery. Can we congratulate Patchpaw and Leopardpaw? Blue Kit asked, digging her paws into the soft earth. Moonflower nudged her forward with her muzzle. They're busy with their new den mates. We'll be their den mates soon, Snow Kid mewed excitedly. Moonflower's ears twitched. Not for 6 minutes you won't, but only if you've learned not to eat poppy seeds by then. Alright then, I'm gonna end it right here. Alright. That was fun. I can't wait for chapter 3, man.